Okay, so we're going to move on to section 4.2. I only made one short little video for section 4.1 because linear equations are things that most people have studied before. But I'd be happy to answer any questions about linear equations. The part that I think is worth spending a little more time on is the sort of word problems, right? The application problems that involve linear functions. And so there's some of those in 4.1, but most of that stuff is found in section 4.2. So this is modeling with linear functions. Modeling just means coming up with equations and functions that describe real-world scenarios or real-world relationships. So this problem is about money. Suppose you start with $200, and then you get a job, a part-time job, pays like $10 an hour, and you maybe work like 4 hours a day. And for every day that you work, that means you're going to earn $40. So that is a rate, right? When you talk about rates, it's something per something else. It's how much one value changes for every unit increase in the other value. So in this case, it's $40 for every 1 day. And we want to find a function that describes how much money you have after X days, assuming we never spend any money. Ha ha ha. So let's analyze the information we're given, and then we will let's come up with a function. So first of all, this information, suppose you start with $200, that's like the amount of money we have after 0 days. And on the graph of the function, that means it's going to be, that'll be where the function height is going to be at 0 days. So at 0 days, we'll have $200. Okay, in other words, it's the y-intercept. So our starting value is the y-intercept, and so the b in the y equals mx plus b will be 200. Okay. The next piece of information we have here is the rate, right? $40 per day. That rate is in reference to the slope or the rate of change. Remember in the last video, I explained how the constant rate of change is the same as the slope of the line in a linear function. So, and actually that's for functions in general. Rate of change and slope are kind of the same thing, though it gets a little complicated with calculus, but don't worry about that too much yet. So this information, though, that's telling us the slope. $40 increase because our y here is the dollars and our x is the days. So $40 increase in dollars for every 1 day. That is our slope. So m is going to equal 40. So now with this information, we can put together our function. So the function we're going to have is f of x equals mx plus b, which is going to be 40x plus the 200 we started with. And so the graph should look something like that, where it's increasing at some rate. Slope equals 40. Okay. So now with this function, let's answer a few questions. A, when will we have $1,000? There's obviously like lots of different ways you can do this. Like you could just count. You could be like, okay, 200, 240, 280, 200, and God, I can't add things when it's video. 100, 200, 320 or whatever. And then like keep on adding up 360 and then just count how many days it takes to get to 1,000. That's not a very good strategy. You could think, how much money do I need to earn total? Well, I need to, from 200, I got to get to 1,000. That's $800 difference. And so then if I'm making $40 a day, 800 divided by 40 should give me the right answer. I think that's going to be 20, right? Great strategies for solving, but let's do it with like sort of function notation and function like terminology, all right? So the question is, when is the output of this function, the f of x, going to equal 1,000? That's the question. So what we can do is take the expression here that defines the function, 40x plus 200, and set that equal to 1,000, and then that creates an equation with one unknown, which is x. And now we solve for x. So now we get 40x equals 800 And we're doing exactly the same math that we were doing in our head earlier when I said, hey, you got to make $800, so $40 a day, divide the 800 by 40. That's literally exactly what we're doing right now. And we get the answer, which is 20 days. So in 20 days, assuming we don't spend any money, right, which is silly, but if we're making $40 a day, then we will have $1,000 after 20 days of work. 20 work days, you know. Next question I want to ask, and we'll see if we can squeeze it in down to the bottom here, is after 100 days, how much money do we have? This is an easier question to answer, actually, because it's just, well, the function is telling us how much money we have, right? F of x equals money after x days. So all we need to do is just say, well, what is f of 100? And to answer that question, we don't have to like add 40 a bunch of times like I was stupidly attempting to do earlier. All we have to do is stick 100 into our function. So I'm replacing the x with 100. This is called evaluating a function. We practiced this in the previous video. So we have 40 times 100 is going to be 4,000 plus 200, and that's 4,200. Stick a unit on there, call it dollars, and that's the answer. So so this is an example of using a linear model, or coming up with and then using a linear model.